back with Vince and Ryan. The Vols are having to replace 4 different starters on the offensive line. The receiving corps returns about 35 catches, about 400 yards, and about 4 TDs. So not much on the receiving corps. Which one's the bigger concern for you starting out, O-line or receivers?
Call me crazy. I think I'm going to probably disagree with more people on this. It's the offensive line for me because I think last year they were enough of a concern, and then you lose 4 starters from that group. Now, there are more reasons to maybe feel you've got more known commodities on this offensive line because you've got 2 additions from the transfer portal with starting experience, especially Wendell Moy Jr., 2-year starter at Arizona.
Your tackles last year, weren't they?
That's the problem is that Lance Hurd, you have a track record. It wasn't very good this past year. You need him to take a big jump.
Yeah.
You're going to have a true freshman potentially starting at the other tackle in David Sanders Jr., very talented one, but still a guy who is a true freshman. And we see any true freshman in the SEC tends to take their lumps at some point. So that, and then you have a new center, and you're going to miss Cooper Mays and that consistency no matter who takes that job. So to me, I heard some people talking about Dylan Sampson at the NFL Combine saying he didn't do a lot of catching passes this past year. He had to help in pass protection a lot because they didn't trust that offensive line. Yeah. I think that's still the group I have more questions about, even though the receivers have had plenty of turnover too.
Vance.
Boy, it's hard. Just real quick to add to what you said. One, Nico's very dependent on his offensive line's protection last year and how he performed. Yeah. When the tackles played a little bit better during that stretch, you saw him kind of take that next step. And the other thing is we haven't seen Glenn Ellerby guys really that he recruited kind of rise up the roster and develop. Is that going to happen this year? Yeah. Obviously, David Sanders Jr. should be a starter, but they need some of that to happen on the offensive line. This is a very difficult question. I'm not going to Cavaliers it, but I'm actually going to go to the wide receivers. And Ryan mentioned the big difference maker for me is there are some known commodities on that offensive line. Where are they in the wide receiving group? I mean, you have Chris Brazel and you have Braylon Staley and you have Mike Matthews. Now, Mike Matthews is that 5-star talent that you would expect to maybe rise up to number 1. But outside of that, they play 3 receivers, Braylon Staley, all the freshmen, Amari Jefferson, and we don't see first-year receivers come into this program, transfers or recruits,
correct,
make a big impact. I think the wide receiver position has been a big detriment to this offense. I think you have a better shot to kind of hold it together on the offensive line. I'm going to go wide receivers.
I'll tell you why I lean toward that on the wide receiver side. I just don't think what they're replacing was that special. I think Brew McCoy gets a lot of credit, but I don't think he gave you a lot of dynamics in the passing game. Squirrel White seemed to regress after his freshman year. I just think what you're replacing them with, Braylon Staley, a former top 100 prospect, Mike Matthews, a former 5-star, those are talented guys that plug them in, get a little more athletic at this position. I think you've got a chance to be pretty good.
I thought both of you guys would say offensive line. I really did. To me, I was going to say receiver. I think offensive line is a concern, but more so the tackles were your big problem last year in pass protection. I mean, you could have used help everywhere, but I thought your tackles were what held you back. Maybe Hurd gets better. We'll see with the freshman, I started to say rookie, but basically it is a pro game, so rookie right tackle. But the receivers are what concerns me because even last year with all the pass protection issues that they had at times, Nico had a lot of deep balls that were dropped. And if you catch those things, if you add another touchdown a game on a deep ball, that year is different. That is a different season. If you just throw in 1 extra touchdown per game, that may flip some games around. That flips the way games are played. So I look at the receivers and think even with the trouble you had keeping him upright, keeping him from taking hits, he still managed to get rid of the ball enough to where, now there were a lot of times where he overthrew guys, especially early in the season too. But there were so many drops there that it goes back to the receiving corps to me. That's where my concern is, and it's for all the reasons you've already stated them. How many new receivers have you seen step right into this system and do well? Not many. What kind of returning production do you have? Nothing. Chris Brazel was supposed to be the best thing since sliced bread when he got here. Pro Football Focus last year had him down for 6 drops. That was more than anyone I've ever seen. And I think that's undercounting it too. So maybe he takes that step forward. I mean, if you wanted me to go back and look at drops, look at Jalen Hyatt the year before he wins the Biletnikoff. So maybe I'll always keep throwing that out there. Maybe this is the year that Brazel puts it all together. Maybe it's the second year. But I saw nothing from Mike Matthews that made me think, oh boy, he's special. Looked okay to me. He just looked like another guy. Braylon Staley couldn't get on the field and didn't blow me away when he was out there. Maybe this is their year. But to me, that is the concern, more about the receivers than the offensive line. And I thought I would be the lone man out here saying receivers.
Yeah, I disagree with Matthews. I think he's going to be terrific. Now, is it year 2
What did
or
you see last year that looked terrific? I thought he looked like another guy.
No, I think he didn't get enough opportunities.
Yeah, okay.
Honestly,
That catch in the Kent State game was big time.
Yeah. So
Kent State, Squirrel White had one of those too. Didn't he?
when we
Special.
saw this offense at its best with Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman, having a deep threat unlocks this offense, and I think
Yes.
it can improve your offensive line because now you're a threat deep. That's to me the key and one that I wonder about the most. Do they have enough there to open this thing up?
I think Staley's the guy not enough people are talking about. Squirrel White is a little bit of a small guy. Got bumped off his routes a lot across the middle and the slot. I think Staley's a little bit stockier guy, can handle it, the contact across the middle there. I think he could have a bigger year than people are expecting.
All right, we'll see. We'll get back and talk about that later. I'm sure Will is over there thinking, where was this negative guy when we were talking basketball? All right. When we come back, let's do a little football rapid fire. We'll bring the whole group in. And Vince, you're getting out here to go call baseball, aren't you?
Yes, sir. They're pretty good. We'll see if they can continue playing well.
Keep the undefeated season rolling.
Oh, my
Vince,
goodness.
thank you, man.
Thanks, guys.
Come on back on the Sports Source.